Once a DJ is brought to you with the support of Vinyl Underground Record Store. Since 1993, VU's been shipping new and used underground house, techno, disco, hip-hop, soul and more worldwide from Northampton in the UK. They're your go-to store for upfront releases, repressed classics and deep digging for undiscovered gems, and they're a great crew to deal with who really care about the music and their customers. To show their support to the Once a DJ community, they're giving you 10% off your next order. Just head to vinylunderground.co.uk and use the code ONCEADJ10 at checkout, and you'll also get free UK delivery on all orders over £100. That's ONCEADJ10 at vinylunderground.co.uk.
Nice.
Before we get back to the show, I just wanted to tell you that outside of this podcast, I run a business called Remote Control. That's remote-ctrl.co.uk, and basically it's where I get to do what I love: audio and video production, design management, all of that sort of creative stuff. And the nice thing is, I don't do it alone. Over the years, especially through DJing, I've met some seriously talented people, from producers to designers to videographers and more, and we've built this little network where we can pretty much take on any creative project. So whether you need a podcast edited or a video produced or branding work or whatever, we've got you covered. It's honestly been one of the most rewarding things I've done, working with people I actually respect and enjoy collaborating with. So if you've got a project in mind or you're just curious about what we do, head to remote-ctrl.co.uk and let's chat. No pressure, just good creative work.
That was nice.
Welcome back to Once a DJ, everyone. We're here today with a man who's played a very important part in print media, DJ culture, and a load more stuff that we're going to get into. Carl Loben, editor-in-chief
of DJ Magazine, yeah. Hello there, Adam. How you doing?
I'm good, thank you, mate. And yourself?
Very good, thanks.
Excellent, excellent. So, yes, I think there's quite a bit to get into based on my research. I don't know how you find it, given your history and interviewing and stuff, but something I don't like to do too much research, because if I do, I just end up asking a load of formulaic questions, and if they're based on the research, they're based on things that are already out there anyway. So I try not to do too much. So if there's anything that I miss that is like a glaring omission, then do just let me know. But with these podcasts, we just basically start with looking at where did you grow up and what are your first sort of musical memories, really.
Oh, all right, okay. Well, I grew up in, West London, I'd say. I started off in South London when I was 3, and my earliest musical memories are probably things like my parents' record collections, which my mum was into, like Elvis and Buddy Holly, and my dad, the Beatles. So between them, not too bad a birthing in music. I particularly got into the Beatles when I was a kid, really. I loved a lot of their songs, and they as they progressed in their career in the 60s, they got really experimental, or quite experimental, as they got into the sort of flower power era, and so I feel that's quite a good grounding. But then my first independent musical love really was the two-tone movement.
Yeah.
Which I was too young for punk, but when two-tone came along when I was 12 or 13, I really massively got into it. The Specials and the Beat and the Selector and Madness, and I remember buying all the early Madness singles, and they were my first ever gig when I was 13, which was under 16s night at Hammersmith Odeon.
Nice.
Where everyone had to leave their DMs at the door, which was quite a sight. There's just this foyer of Dr. Martens shoes and stuff, tassel shoes. Well, I think 'cause they were fearing a bit of violence, basically, from unsavoury elements of possibly the far right who might come in or something.
Yeah, how was that to navigate?
I mean, I was kind of too young, so there was no sign of that at this under 16s night. Madness did have a bit of an NF following apparently at the time, which they managed to get rid of and shake off because idiot racist boneheads were conflating, the two-tone thing with the skinhead sort of racist movement, which was so wrong because it was the whole ska thing came from Jamaican ska.
Yeah.
And the rude boy thing, it was, and then in the UK it became a black white thing. The black white thing was, I remember really thinking that was good, like multiracial bands reflecting a multiracial culture in which is in the UK cities. So yeah, I really got into the two-tone thing. I'd have the Fred Perry and all that business. Our little crew at school would sing the songs and all that sort of thing. And then when later on, and I sort of, like a lot of people did, there's a bit of a journey through the pop charts, but with the, I suppose, more underground music. Well, but back then, all this great stuff got in the charts, like all these two-tone bands got in the charts, and then I sort of got a bit into the kind of new romantic thing or whatever, or the post-punk thing.
Yeah.
They all got in the charts as well. Everyone from Magazine to Visage to, when they started off, Spandau Ballet were quite cool before they went a bit MOR.
Were a lot of these guys on indie labels then?
To start with, yeah. I mean, and then there was kind of like sort of fake indie labels as well, or they'd get signed by a major after one album on an indie or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, the post-punk thing the punk thing was quite a revelation for the music industry, and it shook things up. But you get all these cool records of getting the charts back then. So that was the charts was a thing, and then I sort of moved through indie and a bit of goth and industrial, and then into acid house. And then when the drum and bass jungle thing came along, the black white thing again came into play much more obviously, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I really loved going to some of those dances where it was black and white together, and I massively got into drum and bass in the 90s.
So just in terms of the acid house movement then, I've spoken to a few people on here that have been in and around that in the north and the south, and there was someone that I was speaking to about Clink Street, because in my head that was like a really big sort of focal point of the movement. Being there in and amongst it, I think someone said to me there was quite a few other clubs that were really important in the movement at that point. What's your sort of recollection of what was going on?
I wasn't in London at the time. I had my acid house epiphany at Glastonbury Festival in the late 80s. I wasn't living in London or Manchester or Blackburn, so I wasn't in the epicentre. So, but there was, Clink Street was much more kind of underground than Schumann Spectrum, which are some of the others that have been in London anyway, cited as, seminal, influential club nights that helped kick off the UK acid house explosion. And yeah, they were definitely important, those latter ones that I mentioned, but they also did have their own photographers there, and because the Clink Street definitely didn't have photographers, it was probably too dark to take any photos anyway. But the way that the history has been written has been around where there's photos of Danny Rampling at Shoom, giving it some sort of godlike pose or whatever. The history hasn't always reflected exactly what went on in those early days of the acid house explosion.
Are there any people that you think are really sort of unsung heroes of that era and that movement?
Well, yeah, you mentioned Clink Street, that whole thing, the RIP parties where there was Kid Bachelor, Evil Eddie Richards, Mr. C, these perhaps more unsung people in the history books. And then up north there was obviously the Hacienda, but there was warehouse raves in Blackburn, there was things in Coventry, there was in a lot of cities almost like simultaneously, some of them before London really, when the right sort of DJs were getting hold of the right kind of house records in the mid-80s. And also gay clubs in Heaven, people like Mark Moore and Colin Faver, they were playing kind of acid house before 1987, when everyone says, Danny Rampling and Paul Oakenfold invented it, which is not exactly the truth.
Yeah. So at what point did you start DJing?
I sort of had a bit of a false start in DJing, in that I think I did a bit around the early 90s. But basically, I wasn't very good. And then well, I never had any lessons or anything like that. So
Yeah.
no one taught me to beat mix, first of all. So that was a bit like the matching up of the beats and trying to seamlessly mix one record into another. So I'd kind of clang things, but then maybe by the mid-90s I started doing it more, and I got invited to play at all these kind of underground parties near Hackney where I lived. Sometimes in the sort of third room, the sort of freestyle, anything goes room, where it wasn't such banging house and techno or whatever. You could play anything from dub to ambient electronica to weird stuff, whatever. And then I sort of morphed into being a drum and bass DJ, really. And I played at a few places, but it was kind of quite a sewn up scene, I found.
Do you think with those parties, when you're playing that, let's not say open format, I was talking with someone about this the other day. What's that other word that people used to always use?
Freestyle? I don't know, whatever you want to say, really.
Do you think there was kind of more pressure in a room like that or less? Because in a room because you've got this kind of like anything goes, is it harder to know how to direct it?
I suppose kind of, but I mean, it was less pressure in a way, because you didn't necessarily have to make people dance, because it could be the room where people are kind of sitting around and having a joint, or back in those days, or whatever. You could sort of be a bit more experimental, a bit more eclectic. So no, I actually really enjoyed those sessions. I still like playing not necessarily a 4/4 dance floor set.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I went through kind of drum and bass, and then started playing house again, and then I got into the breakbeat scene around the millennium time, and really got heavily into the breakbeat thing actually for a few years. Started producing with my mate Billy, and we became the Drum Monkeys and would play at breakbeat events and so on, and that was all fine and dandy for a few years until about mid-noughties. There was a bit of a backlash against, because that genre got kind of awash with bootlegs, and it was sort of like everyone was just playing bootlegs of everything in a breakbeat style.
Yeah, that's an era that I'd quite like to focus on with you in a bit, actually, that sort of mid to late 2000s.
Sure, yeah.
But just rolling back then, can you talk a bit about your journey through journalism?
Yeah, so I went to college in Leicester.
Oh, okay.
In the late 80s, and after that I was like, oh God, what do I do now? I like music and I like writing, and I'd be reading The Enemy and Melody Maker and the music press, and one day I thought, I could do that. I could go to gigs and write about them and write album reviews or whatever. So I decided to have a go at doing that, and I did a few sample reviews and stuff, sent them in to Enemy and Melody Maker. The Melody Maker got back to me and said, yeah, you can start doing stuff for us if you like, which I was really lucky. I was kind of maybe in the right place at the right time or whatever, and so started writing for Melody Maker which was kind of like the rival to Enemy at the time, although they were just one floor separate in Kingsreach Tower in Waterloo. And started writing for them, and I did that for the whole of the 90s, really. I had an amazing time being a jobbing freelance music journo in London in the 90s.
Do you think you got that opportunity because, was it like grassroots stuff that you were writing about in those ones that you sent to them, like in Leicester?
I'd actually come back to London by this time.
Right.
But it was more, I don't know, it was more indie stuff, really. Like the first review I did for Melody Maker was this band called Blind Lemon. I'll always remember them, the Marquee, and they're kind of like a grunge band, a bit like Nirvana or something, or trying to be. And it was. I'd just sort of pick a gig, and if I could blag it in, then I'd do a review of it and sent it into Jim Arundel, who ran the live reviews desk at Melody Maker, which was weekly, so there's quite a lot of stuff went into it. Back in the day, in those times, people would avidly read music papers. People would, almost camp outside the newsagent to get their copy on Wednesdays if you were that into the kind of indie music scene, particularly. But as I had me acid house epiphany, I was kind of a bit in both camps, and so I started writing more and more about dance music. And Melody Maker started having a 4-page section in the middle of the paper called Orbit, where all the dance stuff was. So I interviewed all sorts of people from the dance scene.
So did you kind of carve your own sort of USP within the industry then, being the guy that wrote dance stuff for the indie publications?
Yeah, I mean, there was a few of us, but I definitely did. I almost painted myself into a corner as being like the drum and bass guy, because I started just almost exclusively writing about drum and bass things and people. And I did get so into it in the mid-90s and interview all the kind of like a lot of the key players at the time, and basically evangelized for it in print repeatedly. But yeah, I suppose I did. There's a few of us, I suppose, at the Maker. There was Sherman, Martin James, Vina Verdi. There's a few kind of like well, people came and went, but yeah, there's a few key writers during that time, mid to late 90s.
How many of them were DJs?
Most, actually, which is the same as at DJ Mag. Most people are bedroom or budding or jobbing DJs who write for stuff. I mean, it's kind of certainly the case with me as well. I quite like the fact that as a music journal, I'd get sent all these new bits of vinyl that were just about to come out, which was a great thing for my DJ sets at the weekend, because then I could play them out as well as write about them in print if I like them.
Yeah, it's getting on those mailing lists, isn't it?
Indeed. And back then it felt like Christmas every day when when the postman would arrive and you get 5 bits of vinyl in the post to open or something.
Yeah.
Now these days, obviously, it's all digital.
So did that era, with you doing the freelance, did you get to meet loads of different connections in the sort of DJ world then?
I mean, I guess so, yeah. I mean, from interviewing a lot of the people in the dance scene at the time, whether it be drum bass people or people in the techno scene or whatever, yeah. And then, I mean, I suppose even more so with DJ Magazine as well, in the 25 years since the millennium that I've worked for DJ Mag. Yeah.
Were you sort of up on, and were you consuming DJ Mag and Mix Mag through the 90s?
Yeah, I mean, I started writing for DJ Mag, and I think it was 1997 I did my first piece while I was still writing for the Maker. Around that time, I think it was Oasis at Nebworth time, Melody Maker and Enemy had exactly the same front cover one week. My theory is that the suits at IPC, the parent company, saw those two identical covers of their different titles and said, what's going on here? We need to make a bit of a differentiation. And they decided to take Melody Maker more down the route of an indie smash hits.
Right.
To turn it kind of a bit more poppy and glossy and commercial, if you like. I mean, at the time in the 90s, it was like a golden era, I felt, for the music press. And basically the new editor they brought in at Melody Maker took the title down the toilet, unfortunately. It just got more and more shit, and people left. I carried on in there because I didn't exactly have anywhere else to go, but then I eventually left as well, just before the millennium, by which time I'd started doing more and more stuff for DJ Mag anyway, and so I happily sort of fell in with them when they said, oh, come work for us.
Yeah. Was that run by one of the big publishers?
Not at all, no. It was run by very small publishers, a succession of small, fairly clueless publishers, actually, I'd say in hindsight, who didn't really understand the title, because one publishing company that had DJ Mag at the time, Nexus, their other titles were things like, the one I used to laugh at, there was almost like a Have I Got News For You kind of one, was Beanbag Monthly, and you know, these other magazines like Model Railwaying and sort of magazines for really obscure, and they got this DJ one. They didn't really understand it, but they knew that it made them money, so they sort of left us to it, really. And there were some other publishers took over, and then Future Publishing, who were like a proper magazine publisher, came in for a couple of years, but then they sort of also didn't really understand it, and announced one day they were going to sell DJ Mag, and we all thought, oh, what's the future? What's the future hold? And it ended up, rather than Ministry of, there were two people in line to buy it, and one was Ministry of Sound, who said they were going to get rid of all the staff, and the other was this small independent company who said, we're not going to get rid of all the staff. And so Future sold it to the one who was going to keep all the staff. That was around 20 years ago, Thrust Publishing. So it's just a small independent publisher who publishes it now.
So was that the point at which you went full time there then?
That was around the millennium. That was 25 years ago or whatever.
Right.
I don't remember exactly. It was kind of, no, it was 99? It was either 99 or 2000.
So how was DJing for you at that time then, when you started at the magazine? Were you doing a lot, or?
I mean, I've always done more journalism. Journalism has been my full-time job, essentially. Yeah. And I've done some DJing, as and where, which has been, I've been fortunate enough that it's taken me around the world as well, which has been great. I've had some great gigs internationally.
So what sort of gigs have you been getting then? If it's just been kind of like your part-time thing, what are those opportunities you've had overseas?
Some of them have been through the magazine, like in Brazil. There was, over the years, various different people have, I suppose maybe they thought, oh, well, getting the editor of DJ Mag to come over and DJ for us might be good for our club or something as well. So I've had some great international gigs in that way, in Ecuador and Poland and China, and some of it was through the breakbeat scene. Like in China particularly, there was this one promoter who really liked breakbeat, and he just booked all the favourite DJs like Stanton Warriors and Atomic Hooligan and all the kind of breakbeat pantheon, and a couple of times it was my turn, which was a great experience as well. And I love that whole thing of going into a new city and meeting the local promoter or some people, and having a good old party really, and making some new friends, but also appreciating how tiring doing that was. Like one time I thought, oh yeah, I can do this one where I play in Ecuador it's Brazil on the Friday and Ecuador on the Saturday. It's only around the corner, and it was obviously a 20-hour trip from one to the next, and so it'd be like get there at midnight, play at 2 a.m, at 4 o'clock go off to the next place, travel all night and all day, and then no sleep, and get to the next place and try and do the same again. And I appreciated how, because I didn't do that every week by a long chalk. Some international DJs do that every week, and it's so exhausting mentally and physically.
Did that give you new sort of perspectives and ideas and things for your writing and for the magazine?
Definitely. I mean, I think it helps. Remember in the 90s, some people were suspicious of the music press. They thought, oh, we're going to be slagged off here or something by these sneaky music-journos who's all nice to your face and then write horrible things behind your back. But I think the fact of being a DJ myself and, meeting people on a level behind the decks or in the green room or whatever, what definitely helped with some insights. It helped me know my music better, helped knowing tunes, because I'd play them myself and recognise what they are, hearing them out somewhere before Shazam. And just by it obviously me obviously being a DJ as well, then it maybe people trust you a bit more or whatever, and it helps if you're kind of nice to people as well.
How was it in the 90s seeing the growth of the superstar DJ for you as someone who's like sort of holistically viewing the DJ world?
I mean, I had ambivalent feelings maybe towards it, because I sort of came from the more of the underground parties where there were no superstar DJs. It was even more about the crowd, if you like, and the DJ was the person in the corner, providing the rave soundtrack. You didn't even know who was playing sometimes, but you're having a laugh with your mates or whatever. And as the 90s progressed, the cult of the superstar DJs did seem to sort of build up. And on the one hand, it was these very talented DJs very plugged into the scene who were, turning up set after set and rocking a dance floor, rocking the club. So respect. But then it became almost less about the participatory element of the music, and more like a hangover from rock and roll, where you just watch the stage where the DJ is. And as you probably appreciate, there's not a lot to watch with a DJ. Someone standing there twiddling a few knobs. So, but the DJ became more part of the show, and the showmanship kind of came in more so as well. And now that's almost flipped. So it's the DJ who dances, and the crowd just stand there filming them sometimes. Which just kills the vibe, in my opinion.
Were there any amazing DJs that you think really suffered with that change in perspective, like the 90s shift? Because there's the 90s shift and then there's the sort of noughties shift, isn't there? So were the people that kind of fell by the wayside because they didn't want to be in front of people?
I think people adapted, really. I mean, in the early days, sometimes a DJ was a real nerd, almost like a train spotter, sort of very, could almost quote you the catalogue numbers of Soul records or whatever. But obviously that being intense music lovers served DJs well, and that coming out of the shadows thing was perhaps inevitable. And I don't know, people adapted to it. There was definitely shy people who became DJs who maybe when they got on stage were more extravagant in their kind of personality, whatever. So yeah, I wouldn't say people fell by the wayside, but then there's always a new generation coming through, and some older DJs not getting booked so much or whatever, who do maybe sometimes have to think about getting another job or move into management or move into some other place of work.
So when did you start Westway Records?
So I got friendly with this fella Barry Ashworth from the Dub Pistols. I'd done a couple of interviews with him, and we ended up starting a night in West London called The Truth in the early noughties, and kind of out of that we were getting given people's unsigned tunes and stuff, and we thought, why don't we just start a label? So we started Westway, I think it was 2004 maybe, or 3, and it was just at the point that vinyl was starting to die out because of digital downloads. Not die out completely, but be superseded, and more people were, starting to play digitally and vinyl. And we wanted to be a vinyl label, but we caught it towards the end ring. So we did it for a few years anyway, and once by the late noughties, we'd kind of stopped selling too many. We'd sort of finding we only sold 120 copies or something, so we kind of knocked it on the head, really, but still remained good friends. And in that time, we did help some new people coming through, being their first ever release was on our label, all that sort of thing, and we had some fun doing it, so it wasn't a waste of time.
So when you started at DJ Mag, then, was there always the view to take over as editor-in-chief?
No, not at all, actually. I mean, the first editor, Chris Mellor, he did it for the whole of the 90s, basically. And then there was a woman called Leslie Wright, did it for most of the noughties. I was deputy editor or features editor. And then it was kind of like my turn, I suppose, by the time it came to the mid-2010s. And so I've done it for the last 10, 11 years.
So you were there in kind of like what we just slightly touched upon before, the kind of dark ages, if you like. Vinyl had kind of dropped off. Streaming was becoming a thing. People were getting used to just going asking the DJ for whatever they wanted and expecting they should play it. That whole bottle service scene was coming in. The loudness was. What was it like working on the magazine at that time? And I mean, you may have a very different lens on that to me because mine's pretty uneducated. But I guess that was kind of when I started DJing, I was trying to become a DJ in and around that time, but playing stuff that wasn't trendy. You know, I was more sort of hip hop, funk, soul, so things that weren't really on vogue, whatever the word is. So, I mean, what do you think of that period in terms of whether it was a dark age or a difficult time?
There was definitely a drop off in the scene in the UK just after the millennium. There was all these reports came out about the Millennium Eve when DJs were trying to charge ridiculous fees for the millennium, and it kind of felt like it got a bit over bloated, and there was a backlash and a drop off really. And yeah, vinyl started dropping off, and streaming and downloads hadn't quite made up the shortfall. So yeah, there was a strange period, I suppose. But there was still, you know, really ace records during that time. I got into the kind of electroclash thing as well as the breakbeat thing, and then DJ Mag sort of grew exponentially at the same rate, I suppose, as the scene exploded internationally. And through our top 100 DJs poll, particularly, we, you know, started being aware of all these like Dutch trance DJs and
right,
all the kind of bigger room kind of post rave genres, hard house and techno and whatnot. So yeah, it exploded internationally. We would cover it. We were covering more international people, and it just kind of morphed into becoming this humongous beast. But by the mid noughties,
were sales increasing everywhere then, or were sales increasing in the whole, but it was reaching more countries?
Sales of records, you mean?
Of DJ Mag.
Oh, well, yeah, I suppose so. I mean, we've not always had sales figures, but in the 90s, it sold very well. There's a lot of advertising, and yeah, that just increased throughout the noughties and onwards, really.
Right.
So I think, yeah, this thing we do, the top 100 DJs, it's now voted for by over 1 million people every year around the world who are into the culture, and that's where your Tiestos and Calvin Harris and David Guettas and all the rest of it feature. Yeah, some of those DJs do play in bottle service clubs, as you called them.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's not exactly where I came from either, but they do have a place, because sometimes those things allow that particular club to do more underground stuff elsewhere or similar.
Yeah. Is there ever been anyone that's done really well in it that you've thought, really?
Oh, loads of people, yeah. Well, that's through personal taste, I suppose, not exactly rating their music.
Yeah. So we've kind of touched on the music digital revolution, but what about in terms of the magazine and going from print to more digital? How was that to navigate? Because that would have been when you were editing. That would have been whilst you've been editor in chief, right?
Well, I was actually the first web editor of DJ Mag, actually, in '99, just as websites were becoming a thing. And so because we went through a series of publishing companies, we were quite a bit late on the digital side. The website was a bit of a sort of afterthought for quite a few years. The magazine was doing really well anyway, so we thought we didn't really... Well, there was no investment really put into the website until... I don't know, the early 2010s, I suppose, where more stuff became regular news and features on the website and stuff, and now the magazine and the digital are part of the same, obviously under the same roof. We do events, we do videos, we do web stories, we do a magazine still, we do these polls that are really successful. So we have broadened out, I suppose, and the digital thing is now much more important than it was 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah. Was it easy to get it right, that sort of combination, or have you tried certain things that have failed?
I mean, I think the tardiness, the lateness of investing in the website wasn't the best business decision in hindsight. But we got there in the end, and now the different platforms are complementary to one another.
I suppose in a way, though, if you're a bit late on it, you can let other people make certain mistakes, and you can kind of learn from what they've done, and you can see where they've established their sort of best practices.
Yeah, I mean, there was that thing around 2002, the sort of .com bubble, which was when everyone thought, oh, wow, the web is the future, and loads of money came into different music companies and stuff, and some had loads and loads of investment, and they did start producing some quite good stuff, but they didn't exactly factor in how they were going to make a living out of it or wash its own face, the thing, and it was producing some very nice journalism or whatever, but there was no way of it making money. So I suppose they're learning from that .com bubble bursting was probably something that adversely came into our favour.
Yeah, and I guess if you'd done too much work on the website, I remember probably around early to mid 2000s, you had like flash websites where there'd be some of them were just ridiculously over the top in terms of what they did. So you could have probably ended up spending a load of money on developing something that lasted a very short amount of time. Yeah,
and that technology has just come on in leaps and bounds. When you think about, well, when I first started with DJ Mag, we didn't use email.
Right.
There was one in the office. There was one computer that had a CompuServe account that people would email their club listings in, or their copy or whatever. Same as at Melody Maker. A Melody Maker used to fax in your copy or take it into the office on a floppy disk so that it could be put into a computer from there.
Wow.
There was no email until the late 90s, and somehow still got these music publications out on time without the technology has come on in leaps and bounds. It's the same with web technology as well, that websites can do far many more things now than they could 25 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about that, isn't it? Think about the days when you didn't have all this stuff that's just that easy and immediate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, mobile phones have only just become a thing, and there was no, YouTube or Facebook or any social media. Magazines, and in the 90s, particularly before the internet properly kicked in, people would swear by the music reviews in magazines. Go to a record shop and say, "Oh, I read in DJ Mag, this review by Yogi Horton of a US garage track. Have you got it?" And they'd maybe go in the shop. "Oh, yes, we have, and here it is. You can have a quick listen." And music reviews served perhaps arguably more of a purpose then than they do now, because now it's like, "Oh, have you heard the new release by so and so? Oh, here you go, press a button on your computer and you can hear it straight away."
Yeah, and it's like things are you've not got to go through as much to publish music now, have you? You can just you've not got to go through any gatekeepers that might. You'll get gatekeepers that have got their own motives and interests, but then you'll get the people that do protect people, I guess, by ensuring that things that come out are quality.
Yeah, I mean, that was a double-edged thing, I guess, because I always used to think if something came out on vinyl, then it has been through a certain amount of quality control, whereas now you get, 20,000 tracks a day on Spotify, and so, I mean, the number one A is supposed to keep up with all of that anyway, but also there must be a load of dross, which people, if they can just it's democratizing in a way that anyone can do it, anyone can produce a record, or can get AI to produce a record and upload it onto Spotify, but the quality control is not going to be there so much.
Yeah. Do you have to have more staff now then vetting tracks? Because I'm guessing that you get a lot more submissions.
We do it all ourselves. I mean, I get tons of music every day, really, on digital downloads
Yeah.
of different sorts. And I suppose the ones that I check, there's a number of reasons for checking out a certain thing. It could be that I already recognise an artist and I'm curious to hear what the new Gorillaz album sounds like, or whatever it is. Or it could be a trusted PR or trusted industry associate who sends something, or I might just like the name or read the PR description and think that's interesting, something from India, blah, 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 whatever it is. Check it out. Yeah, there's a number, but you can't check out everything at all. And no, we don't employ staff to sit there listening to everything. We just, us music journos still do it ourselves, basically, much like a DJ would with new releases.
Yeah. That when I was DJing more, I remember I got this one tune, this RJD2 tune it's pretty funky, and I felt like it should have done all right on dance floors and stuff, but I couldn't quite get it to work, and I don't really know why. Did you ever have anything that you were just absolutely sure was going to be huge and it wasn't, and you couldn't quite place what happened?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, quite often, you'd pick up on a certain tune and think, oh, wow, this is great. I really think it should be a hit in Clubland or whatever. And you play it to death, perhaps, and seemingly hardly anyone else thought the same thing. Or maybe if you saw the reaction of dancers and people weren't into it, then maybe stop playing it. But I mean, I'm sure there's been loads like that. There's been loads of, great music that's not become that big.
Has there been anything that you've heard and then just thought this is going to be incredible, and then it just blows up beyond all belief?
Oh God! Again, on the flip side, all sorts, really. Yeah. I remember one time. I mean, it's possibly a bit of a no-brainer, but I went into the XL Recordings office, and the guy I was meeting in there said, "Oh, by the way, we've just got this new tune through. It's a remix of it's a collaboration between Dizzee Rascal and Armand van Helden of this tune called Bonkers. Let me play it to you." And he played it up, and I said, "It's a number one." And it absolutely was a number one. Obviously, it was massive. But yeah, I mean, hearing things early on, and then that's part of a music journo's job in a way, to sort of hear good stuff that you think is really cool, and also might be big as well, and then write about it early enough for people to read about it at the time it's coming out, and then maybe it does get big. So yeah, all sorts. I remember, like, for instance, Milo. Do you remember Milo from about 20 years ago? His Destroy Rock and Roll album sort of came in on promo, and we were like, wow, this is great. This is going to be big, and we put him on the cover immediately before anyone knew who he was, really. And he, sure enough, he blew up. And yeah, I mean, it's nice doing those things. That's kind of like the music journos, holy grail, to be the first person to write about a certain new artist or whatever it is, and then you can say, hopefully not too much of a snidey way, "Oh, I was the first one to write about them."
I gave him the first cover. Yeah. Oh, amazing. Have you got any particular features or sort of adventures that you've had through journalism that have really sort of stuck in your mind?
Oh God, well, some of my international trips, I certainly had some adventures on in the 90s. Quite often I'd be paired with this photographer called Brian Sweeney, and we sort of had a few adventures, a bit like Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing book, whereby he was like my wingman, and we'd go to these European festivals or whatever. People would give us drugs. We'd have a really mad, crazy time. It would all get a bit surreal, and then we'd sort of limp home on whichever way we could. Some of those sort of particularly international exploits were some kind of mad, crazy adventures, definitely.
Are there any particular festivals or anything that stick out?
Oh, blimey. Well, I mean, I always go to Glastonbury. I love Glastonbury and always have a great time There were in the 90s. There were some like the early incarnations of Dance Valley and Holland, and some French ones that looked like Teletubby Land, and the first early ones in Miami of Ultra, some Brazilian ones, Skull Beats and Brasilia Music Festival. What else? I mean, I've been to tons of festivals over the years, and around the Millennium time, there was like Creamfields and Homelands, where there was the early Untribal Gathering before that, some of the early dance music ones.
Nice. And then just going back to labels then, you started Jack Said What, and that's with Irvine Welsh and Steve Mack. How did that come about? Because you guys have all got, there's a very interesting mix of skills there, isn't there?
Yeah, indeed, yeah. I mean, I first knew Irvine in the mid-90s, around when he'd first published the Trainspotting book before the film, and I'd gone along to this night called Art Throb. It was sort of billed as being where literature meets electronic music or whatever, and Irvine was doing a reading from Trainspotting there, and then like a week later or something, I got on the North London line at Camden, and he just got on and sat opposite me, and I was like, "You're Irvine, aren't you?" And we started chatting, and we both found that we both lived in Dalston in Hackney at the same at the time, and got off at the same stop, and I said, "Oh, do you want to come in? Do you want to come in and have a spliff back at mine?" And he said, "Oh, all right, we could just go to the offie and get some cans." And so we had a bit of a sesh, and sort of became sort of mates in at that time. And then he moved away to Amsterdam and Ireland and then America, so I sort of lost touch really, but then sort of reconnected on social media. And then when he came back to the UK, we just started hanging out more, and started doing. I did some Q&As with him at music conferences and stuff. And then at one of them in Brighton, I'd moved to Brighton by this time, helped introduce him to Steve Mack, and the three of us kind of started messing around doing music things. And out of that, we started a label, partly for the stuff that he'd been doing with Steve, or other people that we knew who had a bit like with Barry, it was people we knew having unreleased stuff that we thought was really good as well, and sort of deciding to start a label in that way.
I mean, Steve's got an insane pedigree of songwriting, hasn't he?
Absolutely, yeah.
Some of the hits he's done in the past sort of 10, 15 years, unbelievable.
You might be thinking of the other Steve Mack.
Oh, you're joking?
No, there's two Steve Macks. One's a pop producer, and my Steve Mack is an underground house music producer, really.
Oh.
It's all right, don't worry about it. Steve's got this funny tale of when he got. You should probably have him on your show, but he got asked to go to make a record with someone in the Middle East, and they were going to give him loads of money. And when he turned up, they said, "Are you the pop producer Steve Mack?" And he was like, "No, I'm the underground house producer Steve Mack." And they were like, "Shit, we've got the wrong one out here." And they just gave him a suitcase full of cash anyway.
Nice.
Yeah. But no, it's the underground house music Steve Mack, who was in a duo called Rhythm Masters in the 90s, and has worked with all sorts of people. And now him and Irvine have just done the music for the Trainspotting musical.
Nice. Did Irvine choose and sequence all the music for the film, or did he have an input on the film? Because I think with that rejuvenated like Iggy Pop's career, didn't it?
I mean, yeah, I think so. He loved Iggy from when he was a punk rocker, Irvine, and he definitely did. He knew Primal Scream. He was hanging out with Primal Scream. He sort of vaguely knew the Underworld people, and yeah. So there was also a music supervisor on the film, and I'm sure Danny Boyle had his own choices as well. But yeah, I mean, famously, Oasis turned it down because they thought they didn't want to be on a film just about people who were writing down the numbers of trains at the end of a platform, and didn't know. I mean, it was massive, wasn't it? It turned into, from being a cult classic, it went huge in 1996.
Yeah, it was a phenomenon for sure. Oh, amazing.
So there's now this Trainspotting musical coming out July the 13th. You heard it here first.
Nice. We'll make sure we're out with this in plenty of time then. Are you still running the label then?
Yeah. I mean, it's a labour of love. We don't really make any money out of it, so I've got a full-time job. Rob, who does most of the work, actually, he's got a full-time job, and Steve and Irvine's got about 10 projects on the go, always, constantly, and Steve's busy in the studio all the time as well. So yeah, we kind of it's like a side hustle, really.
Yeah. Do you think when you start a label with your sort of contacts and things, is it quite quick to get the music to the right people?
I mean, it definitely helps knowing people, and knowing quite a lot of people in the industry. I should stress that since like we were talking about earlier, since the bottom fell out of the vinyl sales market, running a label could be a full-time job for quite a few people, because you'd sell shed loads of vinyl. You could sell 20,000 copies of a 12-inch, and that would make you 20 grand.
Yeah.
Or something, or whatever. And now that the digital thing is not at the same level, most labels don't really make very much money, or hardly any money. There's only the top few percent that make money from record sales. All the money is made through syncs and live now in the music industry, as you probably established.
Yeah. So just another project I wanted to touch on then is Renegade Snares. Because I was reading about that, and my notes on that were sort of talking about the whitewashing that you wanted to address within the industry. And was there like a real sense of duty to put something out to address that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, tragically, historically, over time, most music genres started by black people, pioneered by black folk, got co-opted by white people, and who took the ball away and ran with it, and claimed it as their own. And this I thought in drum and bass jungle, it was so multicultural, multiracial, that there was no chance of that happening with drum and bass. You had your Goldies and your Fabian Groove Riders and Bookham and loads of people, but then suddenly around a few 5 or 6 or more years ago, there was bits where kind of it seemed like a parade of white guys with black t-shirts, he says, were coming in, and basically taking over drum and bass, and I certainly thought that what wasn't a good look. It's not a good look in the party as well, to just have a load of white guys in black t-shirts piling around. So yeah, that was that, and it also coincided during COVID as well, when I was writing the book with my pal Ben Murphy, with the kind of rise of the Black Lives Matter movement, and I suppose increasing awareness and consciousness within the music industry about the importance of black culture and the pioneers of black music to music as a whole. Like there's this report coming out imminently from UK Music that suggests that 80% of the UK's music output since 1993 is derived from black music. Because like drum bass jungle was black music, essentially. Funk and disco started off as black music. Blues and jazz and rock and roll. Yeah. So I mean, over the years, most of these genres have gone through twists and turns, but invariably, not always, but invariably were started by black music pioneers back in the day.
So do you feel that, like, with the book, you managed to address it and get the message across as much as you felt you needed to?
I mean, we had a chapter about it, and so I suppose so. And there was also bits in the prologue or the intro as well. And a lot of the people interviewed and featured in the book are black artists. So yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think the scene, the drum bass scene, also had a bit of a reckoning within itself as well, and people started trying to make sure that lineups did reflect diversity, which would include having more women DJs on lineups as well. And yeah, so people have more consciousness now about diversity, I think, which to me is only a good thing.
Absolutely. What's next for you then? Are there any other big sort of side projects that are on the horizon?
I'm trying to decide what my next book is going to be, which I haven't decided yet. I mean, my day job of DJ Mag keeps me kind of busy. I got married last year. Been enjoying married life. I've got 2 kids from my first marriage, and I DJ regularly still. Like going with my wife on various trips and to festivals and lots of events. 'Cause I've moved back to London now from Brighton, where I was for 15 years, and I've really been enjoying being back in London as well, and the rich amount of cultural stuff you can go to, from exhibitions to whatever, all the music things you can think of. So I've just been enjoying being back in London for the last. It's less than a year actually that I've been back, really. So I did a few years ago when I was in Brighton think I'm never moving back to London, but now here I am and I'm really loving it.
Amazing. So one last question then. I guess it's a couple of questions rolled into one. What do you think are the biggest challenges facing DJs and DJ culture in the modern era?
Right, cool. I mean, some people are content to sort of stay in their lane. There's sometimes all these kind of like back to 95 parties, and some people, when they had their absolute heyday moment in, whether in hardcore rave or in a certain genre, might just stick in that lane and carry on doing the same thing that they've done for the last 20 years or whatever. But for other DJs, evolving and navigating the ever-changing scene can be a thing, keeping on top of the new tech developments, but also the new releases, and trying to stay relevant, if you like. Are you just being a bit doing the nostalgia game, or are you sort of always looking to the future? And yeah, there's been a bit of a reckoning within the culture itself as well. People are now recognizing more about mental health and people looking after themselves in a well-being sense, and sort of diet and sleep, and that thing I was talking about traveling the world and not sleeping for the whole weekend and getting fucked up every weekend or whatever is not sustainable in the long term. So there's been more realization that people have to look after themselves and each other, actually. So yeah, things have changed over the years, and they'll I'm sure keep on evolving.
Yeah. I think as well though, with the kind of wanting to kind of like take care of yourself and stuff, I think sometimes it's if you see photos of, like, I remember I used to hate seeing photos of myself in certain states, and it put me off getting in certain states because I was like, I don't want to look like that. And I suppose now, if you go out and get in certain states, there's always going to be photos of you doing it. So you've got to think a bit more about that now. You've not got the privacy to have that indulgence and it not be just blasted all over the internet.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I've joked about being quite glad from the 90s when I was quite a bit more wild of, it was lucky that there weren't many cameras around back in those days. No one brought a camera out to a rave or anything. It was, that you were lucky if one photographer might maybe turn up at every 10 events or something. No one wanted to take a camera in case it got damaged or lost. Now, of course, it's all on your phone, and could be plastered all over social media immediately. But I don't know if that's the main reason that less people are getting in those kind of states anymore is, well, perhaps a combination of things to do with like the cost of living crisis and the youth not having any money so much to go out, so people having to much more pick and choose what they go to, and people growing up, I suppose, or with myself when I had kids, I very much settled down as well. Now they're a bit more grown up. I'm having a bit of a second wind with it all, should we say?
Yeah. I mean, it's a funny one. Just going back to the phones, like my friend sent me, like a YouTube video of an over mono set, and I just looked at that and I just saw this sea of phones.
Yeah,
and it's like the experience just seems to be very different now.
Yeah, I mean, I say keep your phone in your pocket, because the actual video that you get of standing there, trying to be like a BBC cameraman, trying to be really still and get the best angle or the best. When you get that bit of recording home and try and play it, it sounds like dog shit, really, because it's not.
Yeah.
It's not broadcast quality. And maybe it's something you want for your, for your Instagram or whatever. But just do it for 20 seconds. What's the point of filming the whole set when it's actually making you lose your full experience within the event, and you're vicariously sort of living through this phone when you could be actually experiencing it directly. Yeah.
So there was just one more question I wanted to ask you, which comes on the back of that, and it's really in terms of, because I know older DJs that are wanting to ramp up and still kind of develop what they're doing, and you've got all the youngsters that will be wanting to build a career. So is there any sort of advice generally for people, do you think, about how to either start or grow a career in DJing, particularly when short form content consumption is such a big part of how people find out about DJs and about everything, really?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say first of all, start your own night, and if once you get a bit of a following or have enough kind of mates or whatever who are going to come regularly, then book your favourite DJ to come and you can warm up for them, and then you can maybe give them your I was going to say demo CD, but give them a USB with one of your tracks on, or make friends with them, and don't expect if you get signed to a label, don't expect the label to do everything. As an artist, you have to promote yourself constantly on social media as well, which isn't what a lot of people signed up for, and some people have had to kind of embrace talking to camera about whatever, or even just talking about records when they play them for their Instagram or social media, whatever. So yeah, it's kind of, I suppose, a number of different things. There's no magic formula. You can't even buy your way in, particularly to the inner sanctum. You have to graft and do a lot of hard work. But then sometimes people do blow up out of nowhere, like that guy Fish 56 Octagon. He just started, chatting about records in his dressing gown with on Instagram, and got this huge following, and now plays sold out gigs everywhere. So it can. In all fairness though, with him, he pivoted. I'd love to get him on to chat about it, because I listened to a podcast he was on, and he was doing a load of video content already about like cars,
doing up old cars. Yeah, so he kind of had this pivot, and he had a load of skills that he'd used and stuff.
I mean, he's a clever marketing guy. Yeah. And he was working, I don't know, he had a day job, and I
think it was a digital marketing agency or something.
Yeah, and he'd put sort of dance tracks behind the car sort of things that he was doing little videos about, and then people would kind of rave about the music. And so, yeah, he did exactly that, pivot to doing more music stuff. I'm just going to, instead of sod the cars, I'm just going to talk about this track in my dressing gown.
It definitely, like, from the outside in, because I've known people and I've kind of felt some ways, but sometimes you think, why is this person getting these gigs? Because they're because they've started like having a cup of tea and putting a record on and dancing around, you know, you can like you can sort of miss out on someone paying dues and just having a passion, you know. But yeah, it certainly seems. Do you think that people maybe want everything to happen a bit too quickly because they see things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of that X Factor hangover maybe, where, you know, you can just go into a audition in front of Simon Cowell from nowhere when you've never sung in public before, and he can make you a star overnight instantly just through a TV show. And yeah, people maybe think that there's too much thought that there is a shortcut to fame and fortune when, like you say, hard graft and years of paying your dues is probably what's necessary most of the time. But that's not always seen. But there's all these big name DJs now. They all started in their local club or in the local pub or playing house parties or whatever. Everyone's got to start somewhere, and you just got to get out there and do it, really. And if you've got the enthusiasm and some degree of taste and a bit of a joie de vivre about you, then hopefully you could do all right.
Nice. That's amazing. Is there anything else that we've not covered that we really ought to have?
I'll probably, but I can't think off the top of my head just now.
Apart from me totally fucking my research up.
No, don't worry about that. I mean, music plays an increasingly important role in people's lives, and we all have lots of parts about music and the music industry. So yeah, especially when you know the world is going to shit around us, then we take solace in music, and the importance of getting together in a sort of community feel at a music event takes on more importance as well. So yeah, keep on being involved in music, I'd say. Amazing.
And have you got a favourite DJ, and if so, why?
I've got a few actually, and some are from quite a long time ago, and the older DJs as well. I mean, the ones I always say is Laurent Garnier, Danny Taglia, and DJ Markey from house, techno, and drum and bass. But then I like a lot of newer people as well, like Cyrita, this new house DJ I really rate. Also Carl Cox, you know, and Fatboy Slim, but from the old guard. But then, yeah, all these new DJs that we feature in DJ Mag all the time. You know, we have people coming in and playing sets in the basement of our office once every other week, and we film them for YouTube. A bit like, you know, sort of boiler room styley, and so, you know, all the time I'm sort of seeing new DJs, and yeah, and I still love the culture. So yeah, that's why I keep in it, really.
Lovely. Great stuff. Well, thanks very much for your time today, Carl.
Nice one, Adam. I've enjoyed it.
And I'll excellent. I'll let you get back to your day.
Cool. Cheers then.
Cheers, mate. All the best.
Take care.
Don't go anywhere.
Oh, that was nice.